The death of Charlie Kirk. It's a terrible thing, a truly terrible thing. And the official story, the one that was packaged and delivered within hours, is that of a lone, disturbed individual, Tyler Robinson, a shooter with a complex but ultimately personal motive. A tragedy, yes, but a contained one, an anomaly, a statistical blip in an otherwise orderly system. And so that's the story. It's clean, it's simple, and it allows everyone to, feel sad for a moment and then move on. But that's not what happened. It's not even close to what happened. And the reason you're all here, the reason I'm speaking about this now, is because that clean, simple story is starting to fray at the edges. It's starting to unravel. And I have to warn you, it is terrifying because it suggests the system we think we live in is not the real system at all. It's just the user interface. The real code is running in the background and it is executing a program that is not for our benefit. By the end of this, you will understand what that program is. You will see the real killer, not the person holding the weapon, but the system that aimed it. The first principle here is to question everything, especially when you are told not to. The very moment someone says, don't ask questions, the case is closed, it's disrespectful to the victim, that is precisely when you must ask every question you can think of. Because that is a system flag. It's an error message. It means the system is trying to prevent you from looking at a piece of corrupted data. Why? Because corrupted data can crash the whole thing. The initial piece of corrupted data, the one that first caught my attention, was the report that there was no autopsy performed on Charlie Kirk. Now, let's just think about that from a first principles engineering standpoint. What is an autopsy? It is a data acquisition event. It is the most fundamental, critical, data-rich analysis you can perform in a situation like this. You have a catastrophic failure of a system, in this case, a human life. The first thing you do, the absolute first thing, is a deep dive diagnostic. You collect every piece of data you possibly can. The trajectory of the projectile, the exact cause of death, the state of the body, everything. To not do this it's like a rocket exploding on the launch pad and your team telling you, don't worry about the telemetry data. Don't look at the black box. We already know what happened. A bolt was loose. It's absurd. It's fundamentally anti-scientific. It is an act of information suppression. And in information theory, the absence of a signal is itself a signal, a very powerful one. It's not noise. It's a deliberate silence. When a server that is supposed to be pinging you every second suddenly goes quiet, you don't assume it's just taking a break. You assume it has failed or it has been deliberately taken off. And I have to warn you, it is terrifying because it suggests the system we think we live in is not the real system at all. It's just the user interface. The real code is running in the background and it is executing a program that is not for our benefit. By the end of this, you will understand what that program is. You will see the real killer, not the person holding the weapon, but the system that aimed it. The first principle here is to question everything, especially when you are told not to. The very moment someone says, don't ask questions, the case is closed, it's disrespectful to the victim, that is precisely when you must ask every question you can think of. Because that is a system flag. It's an error message. The absence of an autopsy report is a deliberate silence. It's a server being unplugged. Why? Because the data it would have transmitted was dangerous. It was a threat to the established narrative. What could that data have been? Well, we will get to the specifics of that. We will explore exactly what that report would have shown and why it was so critical that it never see the light of day. The truth is in the details, and the details of that missing report are the key to unlocking this entire conspiracy. I promise you, by the end of this, the reason for that silence will be deafeningly clear. So you have the first anomaly, the missing data. There were periods of what looked like overwritten data, like a log file that has been selectively wiped. You can see the before and the after, but the event itself is gone. And the tools to do that, to wipe a digital footprint so cleanly, are not, something you download from the App Store. That requires a certain level of sophistication, a level of sophistication that does not align with the lone, troubled youth narrative. This is where we have to talk about the concept of a patsy. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it sounds like something out of a spy movie, but all it really means in a system analysis sense is a designated point of failure. In a complex system, you often build in fail-safes, circuit breakers. There were periods of what looked like overwritten data, like a log file that has been selectively wiped. You can see the before and the after, but the event itself is gone. And the tools to do that, to wipe a digital footprint so cleanly, are not, something you download from the App Store. That requires a certain level of sophistication, a level of sophistication that does not align with the lone, troubled youth narrative. This is where we have to talk about the concept of a patsy. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it sounds like something out of a spy movie, but all it really means in a system analysis sense is a designated point of failure. In a complex system, you often build in fail-safes, circuit breakers. Who wrote the program? That is the real question. That is the question that leads to the real killer. And the clues to the programmer's identity are there if you know how to look. They are hidden in the financial data. They're hidden in the communications data that was not released. They're hidden in the very way the legacy media coordinated its messaging all at once, using the exact same phrases, the exact same character profile. It was like watching a fleet of drones all executing the same command sent from a central server. We are going to dissect that command. We are going to reverse engineer the signal that told them all what to say. And when we do, the source of that signal will become uncomfortably obvious. You have to understand that the legacy media is not a truth-seeking apparatus. It is a narrative-enforcing apparatus. Its primary function is not to discover what is true, but to ensure that the public believes what is convenient for the established power structure. It's a legacy system, a giant monolithic piece of code written decades ago. And like any old piece of code, it's inefficient. It's full of bugs, but it has one primary directive: self-preservation. And any information that threatens the system, any data that could cause a fatal exception, is treated as a virus. It is quarantined and destroyed. Think about it. The speed with which the narrative was solidified. Within an hour, every major news outlet was reporting the same story, same suspect, same motive, same angle. How is that possible? In a chaotic event, information trickles in. It's messy. It's contradictory. The first reports are almost always wrong. That's the signature of reality. Reality is messy. A perfectly clean, instantly consistent story, that is the signature of a simulation. That is the signature of a pre-scripted event. They weren't reporting on the news. They were reading a press release that had been written before the event even happened. And this is what Candace's work has brought to light. She started cross-referencing the timestamps of the official news reports with the actual police dispatch audio. And the discrepancies are staggering. News outlets were reporting details that the police on the scene had not even discovered yet. They were reporting the suspect's name before he had been officially identified. They were reporting a motive before he had even been questioned. How? It's not, good journalism. It's not a scoop. It is evidence of collusion. It is evidence of a script. They had the script. Who gave them the script? Who is the screenwriter for this horrifying piece of theater? That is the question we must answer. And the answer is not a person. It's not, some man in a dark room stroking a cat. That's a movie. In the real world, the most powerful forces are not people. They are systems. They are autonomous, self-perpetuating networks of interest. Financial networks, intelligence networks, political networks. And what we are seeing with the death of Charlie Kirk is the activation of one of these networks, a system designed to protect itself. Charlie Kirk, in some way, had become a threat to that system, not as a person, but as a symbol, as a node in a competing network. And the system responded. It executed a subroutine to eliminate the threat, and then executed another subroutine to manage the public perception of the event. We are watching a war between two networks, a centralized top-down network of control, the legacy media, the established political order, and a decentralized bottom-up network of information, the one that you are all a part of, and the open source network of truth seekers. And this event, this tragedy, has become a key battle in that war. The centralized network is using all of its power to enforce its narrative, but it's failing. It's failing because of the anomalies, the missing autopsy, the strange profile of the shooter, the impossible speed of the media's response. The code is buggy, and people are starting to see the glitches in the matrix. And the biggest glitch, the one we haven't even talked about yet, involves the location itself. The university, the specific building, the timing. It was not random. Nothing about this was random. It was chosen. It was selected for a very specific reason. There was something happening at that university, something Charlie Kirk was involved in, that represented a fundamental threat to a very, very powerful interest. It wasn't about his political views. It wasn't about the things he said on his show. It was about something he was building, something he was about to launch. And we have the documents. We have the internal communications that show what he was working on. And when you see it, when you understand what it was, the motive for his elimination becomes terrifyingly simple. It was not an assassination to silence a voice. It was a corporate raid to steal an asset, a hostile takeover, and we will reveal what that asset was and who took it. That is the final piece of the puzzle, and it changes everything. Let's zoom out for a second. Let's talk about the nature of reality itself. People ask me, are we living in a simulation? It's a fun question, an interesting philosophical exercise, but it's a distraction. The real question is not whether the universe is a simulation. The real question is to what degree our perception of reality is being simulated for us. And the answer is to a very high degree. You are not experiencing reality directly. You are experiencing a curated, edited, and rendered version of reality that is fed to you through a very small number of very powerful channels. The legacy media is the rendering engine for this simulation, and their goal is to keep you inside the game, to make you believe that the rendered world is the real world. They do this by creating simple, compelling narratives, good guys and bad guys, heroes and villains, lone gunmen and tragic victims. These are the NPCs of the media simulation. They have simple backstories. simple motivations. They exist to move the plot forward in a predictable way. But what happens when a real human, a player, starts to go off script? What happens when someone starts to interact with the world in a way that the programmers didn't intend? They break the game. They expose the simulation for what it is. Charlie Kirk was starting to go off script. He was starting to build things, to create platforms that operated outside the rules of the simulation. He was creating a parallel network. A new architecture for communication and influence. And the system, the simulation's core programming identified him as a threat, a bug, a potential exploit that could allow other players to wake up. And so the system initiated a patch, a brutal, horrifying patch. Tyler Robinson was not the killer. He was the patch. He was a piece of code deployed to delete a variable that was causing instability. And the media's job, their role in this, was to provide the cover story for the patch notes. We have fixed a bug that was causing unpredictable behavior. The system is now stable. Please return to your normal activities. They are the customer support for the simulation, and they are lying to you. Some stories are presented with complete confidence, polished, authoritative, and convincing. But over time, small inconsistencies start to show. It's like finding fragments of old code that were meant to be deleted but weren't, or noticing a missing log entry that hints at a deeper issue. A wiped digital history might feel like a corrupted file. An odd sequence of events can look like mismatched timestamps. People like Candace approach these situations like skilled programmers tracing a bug. They aren't chasing wild theories. They're patiently examining the code of an event, looking for gaps and anomalies that don't fit until the bigger picture starts to make sense. It is designed to counter the centralized top-down control of the legacy simulation. It is a tool for the players to fight back against the programmers, to share information, to cross-reference data, to find the glitches in the matrix, and to share them with the world. This is not a game. This is the most important struggle of our time. The struggle for the control of reality itself. The struggle between a closed proprietary simulation and an open source decentralized reality. And the key to winning the struggle is to focus on the anomalies, to amplify the glitches, or to show people the strings on the puppets. The missing autopsy is one of those strings. But there are more, so many more. There's the matter of the weapon, the specific model, its origin. The official story is thin, very thin. The sourcing of that weapon is another thread that, when you pull it, leads back to a very unexpected place. A place that has nothing to do with Tyler Robinson and everything to do with, let's call them institutional actors, state-level actors. And we will trace that thread. We will show you the procurement records. We will show you how that specific piece of hardware ended up in that specific place at that specific time. And the path it took is impossible. It violates the laws of physics unless you account for a hidden hand guiding it. A very powerful, very well-funded hidden hand. And then there is the money. Always, you must follow the money. It is the oldest rule of any investigation, and it is the one that the simulation programmers have the most trouble hiding. You can fake a motive. You can create a patsy. You can script a media narrative, but you cannot hide the flow of capital, not entirely. The blockchain, for all its flaws, has taught us that. Every transaction leaves a trace. And in the hours and days surrounding Charlie's death, there were significant transactions, massive anomalous flows of capital moving between shell corporations and offshore accounts. Funds being liquidated, assets being transferred. It was the financial signature of a corporate takeover, a hostile acquisition. Someone was cashing out. Someone was profiting from this tragedy. Well, the names on the accounts are, of course, hidden behind layers of legal obfuscation. But the timing of the transactions, when correlated with the timeline of the event itself, points to a very small, very elite group of players in the worlds of high finance, private military, contracting, and data analytics. It's a strange combination, isn't it? What do those three things have in common? They have one thing in common. The project that Charlie Kirk was about to launch, the asset that was stolen, it was a new kind of platform, a platform that combined decentralized communication, predictive data analytics, and a new model of financial incentivization. It was a threat. It was a threat to the entire legacy system of finance and media. And so the system eliminated him and absorbed his creation. They killed the founder and stole the company. It is the oldest story in the book, just executed with the tools of modern warfare. We're getting close to the final reveal. We have discussed the missing data of the autopsy. We have discussed the engineered profile of the patsy. We have discussed the impossible coordination of the media simulation. We have discussed the hidden hand in the sourcing of the weapon, and we have discussed the financial signature of the hostile takeover. All the pieces are on the board. All the glitches in the matrix are visible. Now it is time to put them together to see the full picture, to name the real killer. The real killer is not a person. It is an algorithm. It is a parasitic, self-perpetuating system of control that has infected our institutions. Let's call it the narrative control system. Its prime directive is to maintain the stability of the existing power structure. It operates through financial incentives and disincentives. It rewards those who uphold the narrative, and it punishes or eliminates those who threaten it. Charlie Kirk became an existential threat to that system. He was not just criticizing the narrative. He was building a competing one, an arc, a new platform with its own rules, its own incentives, its own truth-seeking mechanism. And the narrative control system could not allow that. It could not allow an independent reality to gain a foothold. So it activated its assets. It used its influence in the intelligence community to source the weapon and the operator. It used its control of the financial system to fund the operation and to profit from the outcome. And it used its primary weapon, the legacy media, to deploy the cover story to render the simulation for the public. But it was a multi-domain attack, a coordinated assault from every vector of the system. Tyler Robinson was just a pawn, a tool. He may have even believed he was acting on his own. The best patsies always do. They are manipulated, guided, and pushed into a position where their own flawed motivations align perfectly with the system's objectives. They become a self-guiding missile, but the system built the missile. And the system chose the target, and the system pushed the launch button. This is the terrifying discovery that Candace Owens made. Not that one man was framed, but that the entire event was a product. A manufactured event produced and directed by a hidden systemic power structure for the purpose of protecting its own market share. The real killer is this system, this algorithm of control. So what do we do? How do we fight a system that is so pervasive, so powerful, You do not fight it head on. You cannot. It is like trying to punch the ocean. You will only exhaust yourself. Number. You do not fight it. You obsolete it. You build a better one. You build a new system, a new network based on a different set of principles, based on transparency, based on decentralization, based on a mathematical, verifiable commitment to the truth. You build an arc. This is what we must do. This is the only path forward. My role with X is to try to provide the foundational tools for that new system. A platform for free inquiry, a place where glitches in the matrix can be shared and amplified, not suppressed. A place where the open source investigation into the death of Charlie Kirk can continue unimpeded. But it is not up to me. It is up to you. It is up to all of us. Here's what you must do. Do not trust. Verify. Take the anomalies we have discussed today and dig deeper. Form your own conclusions. Use the tools of the internet, the public records, the financial data, the archived web pages, the blockchain explorers. The information is out there. It has not all been wiped. They are not that good. They are sloppy. They left traces. Your task is to find them. Start with this. Look up the corporate filings for all major private military and data analytics firms in the week of Charlie Kirk's death. Cross-reference their board members with the board members of the major media conglomerates. Look for the overlaps. They are there. Secondly, analyze the trading volumes of specific obscure tech and defense stocks in the minutes, not hours, minutes after the first news reports broke. You will see anomalous predictive spikes. Someone knew what was coming. Follow those trades. They lead to the money. Third, demand the release of the autopsy. Do not let them forget. The absence of that data is the cornerstone of their lie. We must force them to either produce it or to admit they are hiding it. Either outcome is a victory for the truth. This is how we fight back, not with anger, not with outrage, but with relentless, distributed, open source analysis. We become a global, decentralized detective agency. We become the debugger for the world. The real killer, the narrative control system, thrives in darkness and obfuscation. It feeds on ignorance and apathy. Our weapon is light. Our weapon is relentless curiosity. Our weapon is the truth. They created a closed proprietary simulation. We must counter it with an open source reality. The death of Charlie Kirk was a tragedy, but we must not let it be in vain. We must use it as the catalyst, the event that finally woke us up, the glitch in the matrix that allowed us to see the code behind the curtain. Now let's get to work. If a part of the system is about to overload and take everything down with it, the circuit breaker trips, it sacrifices itself, and the rest of the system is saved. A patsy is a human circuit breaker. They are designed to absorb all the blame to contain the failure, so the larger system can continue to operate. They are the endpoint of the narrative. The story begins with their action and ends with their capture or death. The public is given a complete closed loop, and they are told not to look outside of it. But the data suggests that Tyler Robinson was not the beginning of the loop. He was the end. He was the output of a program that was written by someone else entirely.